In the past month, I've coached over 40 Marvel Rivals players, and I'm going to give away everything that I taught them and I learned for free in this episode of Shotty's Yap Session. And if you guys are new here, this is a series where I yap about a topic and you turn me on in the background while you do something else, or if you really want to, you can watch the mid gameplay. Let's get right into it. Now, this video is going to consist of three main things: tips for each role, basic general tips, and characters that are easiest to climb with for each role. And by the end of this video, no matter what role or character you play, I guarantee you'll learn something new. Now, the general mistakes are something I see a lot of people make mistakes on. And one of the number one things I see is people hold left click or shoot button. Now, a lot of people think, well, you shoot faster or whatever. Shooting it with off like cooldown, basically, shooting as fast as possible is not bad. The bad thing about doing that is you don't really aim before each shot. You kind of just spam, and pray that you're going to hit them, not actually, is this on click? Is this on click? And you'll end up reloading more than you actually hit people. And a lot of people, when they started tap firing instead of holding left click the whole time, they found that they hit more shots, they played better, because everyone I've watched, well, not everyone, but a lot of players I've watched, they just shoot, and it'll look like they're just drawing circles on the enemy trying to pray, and they'll be accurate, right? They'll be on the target at some point, but because they're not clicking when they're on target, they're just holding it the whole time. They're shooting after they're already off target, and it's just like, it's wishy-washy aim, basically. It's not actually thinking about your shot before you do it. Now, speaking of shooting, one thing I told someone the other day, and I found that a lot of people switch targets a lot, you're never going to kill anyone if you try to kill everyone, right? Switching targets to keep damage up is fine, but when you get somebody one shot, and then you look away because they used one ability, even though they're still easily killable, just to go shoot a tank or something, you're throwing, right? Because that little bit of downtime gives them a chance to get healed, get a health pack, get away, stuff like that. Now, I've seen this a lot with, like, let's say Cloak and Dagger. She will use her invisibility, and people will stop shooting her, which makes sense. They'll shoot somebody else, but if you didn't know, there's a giant circle outline of where she is, and in the center of that circle outline, she's there. So you can keep track of that while doing some damage to someone else, and as soon as she gets out, you can finish her off, right? But a lot of people will let her cloak, let her get away, and then just give up a free healer kill. And if you do that, you're just going to lose games for free, right? You could have a ton of damage, you could be doing great, but if it's not meaningful kills or if it's not important kills, doesn't matter, right? And especially healer kills doesn't get much more valuable than that. Ooh, speaking of that, I wanted to talk about this. I have a generalization of target priority I've been teaching people. Now, like I said, generalization, but I think it's pretty accurate. Now, of course, you need to play, like, every game is different. Who you target is different. Sometimes it'll be this character, that character, whatever. But the general order I give is uncontested, healer, DPS, tank. And what I mean by uncontested is, let's say you have a Punisher in the back line, just doing tons of damage, no one's shooting him, nothing. He has no pressure and he gets to do free damage to you. That would be uncontested. Or an Iron Man in the sky that's doing a ton of damage. That's uncontested, right? And the reason why I say that's above healers is because you're not going to be able to do anything to a healer if someone who's uncontested is there, right? They're just going to rail into you. They're going to destroy your health bar, whatever. You know what I mean? And sometimes healers are the ones that are uncontested. And an example of that would be if you're fighting the tank, and you guys will all probably experience it. You're fighting the tank, but his health bar never moves, right? He's just getting 3,000 healing per second. That's healers being uncontested. They have no pressure on them. They have no fear of being shot, anything, and they can just tank farm over and over and over again. So in that situation, you want to go for the healers. If Iron Man's up in the sky doing a ton of damage, you want to go for him. If Punisher's in turret, you want to go for him. Now, yeah, it's sometimes for tanks that doesn't work, but a lot of tanks you can play with that mindset as well, specifically if you have two tanks. Because if you don't have two tanks, you don't really want to be the one going in for kills as much. You want to be creating pressure for your team, protecting them, stuff like that. But if you do have two tanks, one of you should be doing that. One of you should be pressuring the healers or pressuring Punisher or whoever it is. Because tanks can do a lot of damage, and they can make space at the same time. So if you use it correctly, you can easily change the fight. Now, one more thing in the topic of, or I guess two more things in the topic of damage is, one, when the enemy healer ults, and there's not a ton of risk for you dying, do as much damage as possible. Like, have you ever had the times where the enemy cloak ults and your team cloak ults, just spam damage into them? The reason why is if cloak ults, she can't, or I guess, I don't know if cloak can, I'm pretty sure cloak can't, but I'm gonna use Invisigirl as an example because I know she can't. If Invisigirl ults, she can't charge another ult until her ult disappears, which means all the healing she does has no value in terms of charging an enemy healer ult. So you can farm your DPS, your tank, your healer ult off of her or anyone in her ultimate for free. Because in everything in this game, every bit of damage you do as a DPS or a tank is enemy healer ultimate charged. So when they pop a healer ult and they can't charge theirs, do as much as possible. I know it's true for Luna Snow. Pretty sure it's true for Mantis. I don't remember if it's true for Cloak. I know it's true for Invisible Girl. All of them can't charge their ultimate while their ultimate is out. So it's just free ult charge for you. And you want to take advantage of that because too many times I've seen people either fully disengage or just sit there and look at them because they're like, well, I can't kill them anyways, no point. Even though they could have gotten 60 ult charge. And then the last thing is pushing with the team. Too many people will die once, twice, and then from there on out, you guys push as teams of 3 instead of teams of 6. And it just makes it easier for you to lose. Now, I know in solo queue or duo queue, it's hard to get a teammate or a team that will actually do that. So you can just sometimes do it for them. You sit behind them, you wait and spawn, and you wait for as many as possible. At least if it's 5, that's better than the 3 that was happening. You can't control your teammates, but you can try to play around them. Now, before we get into the Vanguard tips, 2 more things. 1, they're just bad days. There's just going to be days where you suck, your teammates suck, you're on a loss streak, whatever. It happens, right? It's always going to happen. It's better to just play another game. If you have another account, do that. Do whatever you want, but don't just keep tilting because then you're going to lose more. You're going to be even more angry. And half the time you don't even learn anything from really bad losses. So it's just irritating. And then knowing every character. Bro, you have no idea how many people didn't know Hela has wall hacks in her ultimate. Or, I don't know, how to predict a Doctor Strange ult, right? Most Doctor Stranges jump up in the air before they ult. Thor will probably panic ult whenever he's low health. Stuff like that, certain things you just learn by playing, right? And when you understand what the enemy's combos are or what they're going to do, like Black Panther running up a wall before he engages, stuff like that, once you start seeing it, you'll never unsee it, right? Once you've played like 5 games on every character, you're like, okay, I know what this guy's going to do. Or I know Captain America's holding his shield right now because he's waiting to get his shoulder charge back up and dash away, or his jump to dash away. And when you understand that, the game's just easier because you know what the enemy's doing before they do it. And instead of playing the whole game reactionary, like, okay, this just happened, I'll react, you can predict what they're doing and it makes it easy. Like, for example, as Winter Soldier, his right click cancels ultimates. He cancels Doctor Strange's ult. So I'll not use it when I know he's close to ultimate. And then as soon as I see him jump in the air, I'll be looking, I'll be watching, I'll be waiting to see if he ults. Second he does it, I pull him, he cancels his ult. And it's amazing, right? It just wins games like that. And it was nothing special. All I know is I know most Doctor Stranges jump up in the air first. And I looked for it, I saw it, and I countered it. Speaking of Doctor Strange, let's get into Vanguards. The thing about tank in this game is a lot of it is what I've been calling ebb and flow. It's push or be pushed, right? So many times, you don't even understand how many times just holding W will force the enemy team to hold S. And if you're on controller, holding forward will make them back up. Even if you're not doing damage, even if you're just looking at them ugly, you know, they run back just because you're there. And the issue is, a lot of the tanks I coached, they're the ones running back. They're the ones letting themselves get pressured, even when the enemy has done no damage, has done nothing, right? With their whole team behind them, both sides have their whole team behind them, but the team that takes more space, half the times the team just says, I'm pushing. Forget about it. I'm going in. But you want to be the one doing it. Yes, there's good times to do it. There's bad times to do it. But a lot of people just don't do it. They'll get pressured and they leave. And that's why you'll end up feeling like you can't do anything. A lot of people don't realize how much impact tanks have on winning a game. Tanks are the reason why you guys can get kills. Tanks are the reason why you guys can heal. Tanks are the reason why everything happens pretty much. And that's why you've had games probably where you just feel helpless. You're just dying. You're getting smacked. You can't heal. You're getting pressured constantly. And a lot of the times it's a tank problem. And a lot of people will call it a DPS problem because nothing dies. But of course nothing dies if healers can't heal and DPS can't do damage without someone barrel stuffing them. And as a tank, if you let someone do it, you're throwing basically. Now, how do I do that? Well, until I make my space video, which if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe so you can check out when I make a how to take space video. But long story short, a lot of it is, I guess you could call it mental or ego. One part of it is you're pushing them. You scare them back. You ego them, you force them back. Then what happens if the guy won't go back, if he wants to fight you? Then it has to be who does damage. And as a tank, your job is minimize that damage. Now, right now I'm speaking as a frontline tank. As a diving tank, it'll be a little different, but even as a diving tank, you still want to fight the front line a little bit. You don't want to just, as soon as the game starts, jump up in the air as Captain America, dive into the middle of 6 people, and then get popped, right? Guys, why didn't you go in? I was in there. Meanwhile, your whole team hasn't even caught up to you yet. You know what I mean? And you'll see that a ton, which sometimes, yeah, you should be pushing in, you should be backlining, whatever. But no matter what tank you are, sometimes you have to fight their tank in the front line to get your team the opportunity to fight. Because if you don't, the healers have no reason to heal because everyone's full health. So they're all going to look at you and do damage to you. The DPS have no one to shoot because you're the only one pushed up. And, I mean, they don't have to protect their tanks because you're just diving. You have to make pressure for your team so they can do their jobs. Now, yeah, there's going to be games. I actually coached someone and I was like, I can't even go over this game because your teammates are doing no damage. They're not killing anyone. You're pushing in well. You're making space. You're pushing the enemy back. But your teammates haven't done more than like 50 damage to anybody. So I can't even we have to look at a different VOD because I can't coach this because it's not your fault mechanically and positioning wise and everything. You're playing great and that happens. But more often than not, that's not what's happening. More often than not, you probably could have pushed more here. You should have walked past the tanks and done damage to the healers. Should have done something like that. Now, when do you walk past the tanks? I like to do it specifically when I have, let's say you have competent DPS, right? Some DPS players, but if you have a DPS that's putting good pressure on their tank, if you have a DPS that's doing certain things, you can get away with being more aggressive. Now, you can only do it if you have 2 tanks pretty much, because if you leave your team completely alone and they have 2 tanks, you're doomed, right? You're just going to get full dove. You're going to turn around. Everyone's dead. So you need to be able to decide when am I pushing, when am I not? And if you have 2 healers, if you have 2 tanks, you want to decide, okay, this tank is diving. I'm going to protect my back line. Or this tank is protecting the back line. I'm going to dive. And even as Doctor Strange, I will walk straight past their tank. If my healers are protected by, let's say my other tank or DPS or whatever, I will walk past them and do half the health of their healers for free, because who's going to stop me? I have 600 health. I was going to say 650, but they done nerfed me. But I have 600 health. Yeah, I'm going in there. What are you going to do about it? Kill me? No, you ain't. Speaking of killing you, please use your abilities to make your healer's job easier. Too many tanks and DPS and everything. You guys don't realize what you look like to your healer. Number one thing I did a lot in my coaching was I would zoom out the camera and go to the perspective of the healers and show them, this is what you look like to your healer. Do you see how you look like a wall or a rock and they literally cannot see you or heal you if they wanted to? And then they'll say, usually the person I'm coaching will say something along the lines of, yeah, I didn't think about that. I didn't realize. And it's understandable. When we're in the heat of the moment, we're rushing in. We're like, yeah, I'm going to get this kill. Well, this guy's one shot. I got to finish it. Then you turn around. It's like, guys, why am I not getting healed? But you realize that there's a tank on them or venom on them, or they're just trying to rush up to catch up to you, but you're faster than them. So be aware of where your healers are. Just think about them. And as Doctor Strange, for example, or Captain America, you could do it too, I guess. Doctor Strange, I like to jump up in the air with the shift or the whatever it is, the fly up ability, and hold my shield while I'm in the air so I can make it easier for my healers to heal me. Because at least, let's say if there's a Groot wall behind me, I'm above it now. Let's say there's a wall where my teammate can't see me. I'm probably above it now, right? And all that helps a ton. Because you don't want to, how do I put this? If you have bad teammates, you don't want to make it easy for them to be bad. You want to make it easier for them to be good, right? So what's more likely? A bad player to rush up to come save your life, or a bad player to sit there on site and let you die? Sorry, I couldn't see you. LOS, you broke LOS. How many times have you heard that? As a DPS, as a tank, whatever, how many times have you heard, you broke LOS, sorry, I can't see you? Meanwhile, it's literally a 1-by-1 little panel blocking them, and they will not walk around the corner to save you. But it happens, right? Sometimes you really do break LOS. You're behind 16 buildings, hiding there, and you're like, guys, why aren't you healing me? Sometimes they're right. So make them not right. Actually be helpful. Make it easy for them to do their job, right? I understand sometimes we have to push up to do our job, but you need healers, especially in this game. Like DPS, but healers, no matter what, you cannot win in this game without them. The passive healing you get is from the cart. Pushing cart gives you passive healing and health packs. If you relied on that in this game, you're doomed. There's no way you're winning. Unless the enemy team's really, really bad or we're in bronze. But no, you got to make their job easier, especially if you want to be able to do your job. Because a good healer with a tank, oh my god, you can 1v6. It's insane. But if you're fighting against them by hiding behind walls or just not using your abilities to help them, what are you going to do? How do you expect to win? Now, if you have a stack, listen, force them to do whatever you want. But most people don't. Most people are playing this game solo. Now, another thing about healers is, as a tank, there should be two relationships you have with taking damage. You should either be minimizing the damage you take to make it so it's easier for people to heal you, or you should be taking damage so you can farm your healer ult faster than the enemy team. Those are the only two things you want to do with damage. A lot of tanks I'll see, how am I supposed to push in? Or I am pushing in, we're just not doing anything, or I'm getting popped, I'm taking so much damage. Meanwhile, you watch them play and they run in a straight line at the enemy team. No cover, no thought of cover, no nothing. And the enemy team's full health. And they're just wondering, guys, I'm pushing, why isn't it working? You can't just push. I plan on doing a VOD review of a strange game I had where I think it perfectly shows how to play a tank. Or pretty well shows. Like of course I made mistakes and sometimes I autopilot or whatever. But I think it shows very well how to take space, how to play a tank, value of your ultimates sometimes. And to sum up, I would push up, I'd play cover, I'd peek angles behind cover and using third person to see when I should peek to do damage. Then, based on how much damage we did to the enemy or how much they pushed back or whatever they did, then as a team, I'll push in and we'll attack and we'll fight like that. But I'm using cover to find out how much damage they're taking. I'm not just running at them praying. I'm poking them to see, okay, is this damage sticking or is the healer keeping them up? And in that game, as soon as I saw damage was sticking, meaning that they weren't getting healed, we rushed. We got a free pick. Then we went to point. And after going to point, I let my whole team, or most of my team, go onto site to cap it. And I pushed the enemy team to force them to fight me for space. And all I had was like one healer and DPS with me. So it was 3v4 or 3v5. And I was pushed up because I would rather fight them there than let them take the space for free. And before I even did damage, 3 of them ran back because they saw me. And that's what I mean about push or be pushed. Just because I walked up there, they left. Part of it was because, of course, we had already gotten one pick, and it was a Thor pick we got. But they ran just because I was there. And a lot of tanks will, well, I'm going to go to point, I'm going to go cap it, and I'm going to sit there. And then they're surprised when the enemy team gets to walk for free 90% of the way to point, and the other 10%, they fight us, and then they win. When I'm meeting them at 50%, not letting them get there for free, and then as soon as all of them are grouped up, I'm not crazy. So I leave and I let them have the space, but I might have stalled them for 30 seconds. I might have charged 20% ult. All that I got to do just by being there. And I gave our team a good fight. So there are times to just push up for the hell of it. And as a tank, you can grab health packs. I've seen so many tanks just allergic to a health pack, or they'll walk right past one, which sometimes it makes sense, right? Sometimes you just need to get somewhere quickly. But if you're in a fight, get the health pack. Put the shield up, stall for time, and get the health pack. Oh my gosh, thank God I said that. Speaking of shields, stop holding your shield so much. All you shield characters, Captain America, Thor, nice. Magneto, Strange, stop putting up your shield so much. Everyone and their mother is holding their shield more than they're doing anything. Now, with your shield, so let's say Strange's shield, you can time damage, right? Let's say someone shoots in like a pattern of boom, boom, boom. You can tap your shield in sync with those shots, and you can shoot shield, shoot shield, shoot shield over and over and over again. Now with Captain America, you can, but it's more delayed. It's like a 2-second delay, but you can time it and anticipate people's shots instead of just holding it the whole time. End up doing 40% less damage, 40% less ult charge, and you're just a shield bot. I would recommend playing more without your shield than with it, and then as you get better, you'll learn how to use your shield. You should be using it to help your teammates get by, a choke so they don't take damage, blocking damage for your team, blocking damage for yourself so you can get healed. But you shouldn't just be, oh, there's a whole bunch of people, shield. Like, what are you blocking? They haven't shot yet. They're not even looking at you when you're blocking. I did actually see that yesterday while I was coaching someone. It was funny. We had a good laugh about it. Someone was looking away from him and he's shielding. I'm like, I'm gonna hit him, you know? But it happens. It happens all the time. And it's so common. So stop using your shield. Just put it down. And eventually you'll learn how to use it. Now, as for the characters I would recommend to play, if you're a Vanguard, Doctor Strange, Thor, and Magneto, free climbs on. Absolutely free climbs. They're not banned a ton, and they're great characters, right? Pretty easy to main, not complicated kits, and they're really powerful. Now, out of those three, Strange and Magneto can solo tank. Thor can't really, unless you have like a cracked Hela that'll keep reviving you, because Thor he does no damage from range. So he can't poke, he has to be rushing. Or he has to constantly have 3 hammers up, which takes some level of aggression and really good cooldown management. So to solo tank on the other two, it's easy. To solo tank on Thor, it's much more skill required. So if you're solo tanking, I wouldn't recommend him. If you have 2 tanks, though, absolutely, get on Thor right away. Now let's get into Duelist. For Duelist, or DPS, or whatever you want to call him, oh my god. Now this will go for everybody, but use your cooldowns more. The only cooldown you shouldn't be spamming is, I would say, your get out of jail free card. And if you don't know what that is, it would be Namor's bubble that he goes into, or Cloak's cloak ability, or Doctor Strange's jump up ability, or stuff like that. All the abilities that will make it much harder for you to die, or you're able to save your own life with, you want to save those more often. But every other ability, spam it. Now, no, you shouldn't actually spam it, but I would rather you spam it so you're doing a ton of damage and actually being helpful to the team, rather than you're too scared to use it, or you're using it at the quote-unquote perfect time. You will learn by using it wrong how to use it correctly. So don't be so afraid to, oh, I can't use it because what if I need it, or blah, blah, blah. Just use it. You're going to use it 40 times, and of those 40 times, maybe 20 of them, you're going to mess up, and you're going to say, okay, this time I did this, or this time I did that, or maybe I should have used it here. And you'll learn. But if you use it 0 times, you're going to learn 0 of anything. You're going to learn literally nothing. So screw it up. Make mistakes. Do it. Not just sit there and hope. Now as a DPS, the thing about spamming it is there's a weird relationship that you're going to end up learning with doing damage. You might have 40k damage, but 3 final blows. Or you're going to have 10k damage, 3 elims. And that relationship with damage you'll learn over time. But the gist of it is, every time you do damage, 1, you're farming a healer ult. 2, you can easily tank farm and do essentially 0 damage. You can have a ton of damage, but if you don't make the judgment call of, am I shooting the right person? You're going to be inadvertently throwing. And that's why you'll see so many people that have tons of damage, but 3 final blows and a tank outdid them. And it wasn't even close. And the first thing you really need to know is, you have to learn how to do positioning, and you need to learn when to cycle between pressuring the tanks versus the healers or the DPS. Now, in general, the hierarchy I gave earlier, if you didn't watch it, I talked about uncontested, healers, DPS, and tank. That's the order that you should shoot people in or fight people. And uncontested basically means the person who is doing damage for free or is getting infinitely healed, you have to shoot the healers, stuff like that. I would recommend you rewind and watch that part, but if you don't, that's the gist of it. But you have to be able to make the judgment call that, let's say I'm a Moon Knight. And as a Moon Knight, personally, the more I've played him, the more I realize I don't think you should really shoot tanks much at all. And people might disagree with me on that. But the reason why I say that is, most of the damage you do will be to the tank, and you'll do minor chip damage to people around him. Because if you didn't know, it ricochets off people too, his bullets. But if you can land an onk on somebody and get them pulled in, a left click, right click, left click combo, one-shots. Well, obviously, one-shots is loosely used in that sense, but one-shots, quote unquote, it's nearly undodgeable if you don't have an ability to use. So you can insta-kill a squishy if they don't get healed, meaning that you should probably target the backline with it. If possible, you should get up on a roof, throw it down on the backline, and pop somebody, instead of getting 30,000 damage, but you got no kills because it was all on the tank that was getting infinitely healed by the Luna Snow and the Cloak and Dagger right behind him. And you have to be able to make those calls saying, when should I switch to the healer? Okay, this tank is not getting healed. He's been half health for like 5 minutes now, right? He clearly they're not healing him much. let me burst him as fast as possible. And stuff like that you have to see in the game. You have to decide who's getting healed the most. This guy is. Okay, so let me either target the healers or target somebody else. Okay, the healers are really protected. Maybe I can poke them, pull their attention to me, and then go for a different pick, right? You can play in a way that is just irritating the enemy team, right? The way I like to talk about it is I've showed people plenty of the time what they look like to the enemy team. If you've ever pushed through a choke, if you don't realize what you look like, you all are on one level in one tiny choke in one tiny spot. No one on high ground, no one on low ground, no one anywhere, nobody flying, no one anything. Even just being slightly displaced will make it harder for the enemy team to win, right? Let's say a Punisher and a healer are both on high ground together. Punisher's probably not going to die because he has the healer pocketing him, and Punisher gets to rain damage for free on you while you're already worried about the Doctor Strange in your face beating you to death. So getting teammates that will calm with you, which I know, rare, impossible, getting people that will play with you or just playing by yourself on a different angle makes the game so much easier for you guys. Because the enemy team is stressed. It's like, oh my God, well, guys, can someone shoot the Iron Man that has been laying into me for 5 minutes? Meanwhile, you as the DPS hasn't even seen the Iron Man. It's like, yeah, no, I'm good. But your healers have been getting laid into the whole time because you guys have to keep the pressure on the tanks so they don't push your healers. Meanwhile, no one's pressuring the Iron Man, so he gets to do free damage. And you guys have so much to worry about. You'll end up feeling almost overwhelmed because you're getting drowned in the enemy team. And you want to create that feeling for the enemy team. You don't want to be the one on the receiving end of that. Now, speaking of pressure and overwhelming the enemy team, if you're a dive character, Namor, Namor? Black Panther, Psylocke, sometimes Star-Lord, depending on how you play him. All the players that will dive, you want to be only diving when there's pressure. So many Black Panthers I've seen, their team starts to push up, but they just take it as an opportunity. I'm going in, guys. Meanwhile, the tanks are full health. The DPS haven't been shot at yet. The healers haven't been shot at yet. And you decide to cowabunga into the enemy team, diving on their head while they have no pressure on them. Just because your team is pushed up does not mean there's pressure, right? From a healer's perspective, if their tank is full health and all their DPS is full health, what better do they have to do other than shoot you? But if your team is doing a ton of damage to the tank in the front line and he's half health already, those 5 seconds of you diving, she'll have to make or whatever. Is there any female healers? There's Raccoon and Adam, right? Yeah, well, the healer will have to make a decision of, do I heal the tank or do I fight for my life? If they heal the tank might not die, but they will, if you're a good Black Panther or whatever. But if they heal themselves, the tank will probably get killed. And if you play well, you can disengage, get away for free. And then you made a huge impact compared to the times where you'll dive in too early, you just get picked for free, and then you get that chat message, yo, BP, can you play someone else? But a lot of it's timing as a dive character. And dive characters have no mid game. Dive characters, or is it a neutral game? They have no neutral game. Neutral is basically the times where you guys are just doing damage. You're poking somebody, you're shooting at them. Dive characters don't really have that, especially BP, right? He's a melee character. What are you going to do? Throw a spear at them? You can, which is another note. Please stop worrying about optimal combos. Yes, it's fine to do the optimal combo. It's fine to always get a reset off your dash. But there are times where you can guarantee a kill and very likely get away. And Black Panthers will not dash because they're like, well, she doesn't have a mark. And they'll wait for a cooldown. And by the time they get the cooldown, the person gets healed. Please stop doing that. There is a time to do it. But if all you think about is the perfect combo, the perfect this, you're going to let kills get away. And getting the kill is more important than everything. Even if you see someone who's one shot far away, throw a spear at them, right? It's like, well, I can't dash them for this range. Who cares? If they're dead, it doesn't matter. So get those kills. Now, the last big part as a duelist player is all about ultimates. In higher ranks, all the game is about is I ult you, we combo better, you lose. That's also why Storm is so powerful. Her ultimate is just guaranteed either a team wipe or now with the Johnny combo, yeah, just a team wipe. Never mind, right? It used to be a team wipe or a healer ult. Now it's 2 ults to guarantee the whole team's dead, you know? That's part of the reason why she's insta-banned. That ultimate's too powerful. That's also why you'll see garbage players, but they have a duo queue with a Groot and Moon Knight, and they're ranking up like crazy because every time Groot gets a pull, they wipe your whole team for free. So First of all, if you can, get a Groot that's a friend. Like, make friends with a Groot that's a one trick or whatever, and play a character with an ultimate you can combo with. So Namor, Moon Knight, maybe Scarlet Witch if you want to. Stuff like that. Absolutely. You'll destroy games easily. But besides just comboing ults, as a DPS, you need to learn that if you're really fast at charging your ultimate, use your ultimate to bait the healer ults so that your other DPS or your other teammates can ult, right? As Star-Lord, if I'm charging my ultimate instantly, I'll burn it as fast as possible and pray that I beat the healer to ultimate, meaning that I can get a free team wipe. And if I didn't beat them, they'll pop it, maybe I'll get one kill, and then they don't have a healer ult anymore. And then whoever our other DPS is, or our tank, or we can just fight them and win that with much more ease than if I didn't bait it out. So bait ultimates. Think about if you're a Psylocke and a Star-Lord. Yo, Psylocke, can you ult real quick their backline? Psylocke ults, they get to healer ult out. Then we ult, we kill them after the healer ult's over. And maybe sometimes, especially with triple support now, I guess it's starting to die out, which is good. But with triple support, it made it much harder to do that because it's infinite healer ults. But without triple support, you bait one ult out, maybe if they have a Raccoon or a Jeff, they just lose. That's the end of the game, right? Because you'll use both your DPS ults, wipe the whole team, win the fight, easy game. But you want to be thinking about either baiting the enemy team's ultimate or wiping the enemy team. That's how you want to use your ultimate. Now, some characters, like I would say Namor's ult, it's either to wipe people or to zone. Because without a combo, it's hard to really get kills with that ult because people can really just run away out of it pretty easily. Especially if they're aware of you and they know where you are and you're not playing like a different angle, they'll just get out of it. But the good thing about that is if you throw it in a choke, they have two options. Run backwards and stop their push, or run forward towards your team and get killed. So if you throw it while the tank is already too far to run back, you can zone them off, kill the tank for free, then they either have to restart the fight or fight without a tank. So you can use ultimates like that. That's how I like to use Moon Knight's ult because I get it so quickly. The thing is, if they don't get out of it, it's a free kill. If they do get out of it, they have to either get cut off from the enemy team or get cut off from our team, or they have to get stuck on the other side of the ultimate, not be able to help their team, which is a win-win-win for us. So don't always think about your ultimate as, what's the best one? Is this perfect? Is this a good ult? Am I going to get a team wipe? 2 kills with an ultimate is more than enough. 1 kill is great, right? Obviously, you want more than 1, but 2 is perfection. If it's 2 good picks, that's all you need. Especially if it's a support pick, you win, right? If you get a guaranteed pick and your team's alive, you just win the round. You win that fight pretty much because numbers are so important. And without ultimates, the game is pretty numbers based. Ultimates are what will swing that pendulum. But without them, it's just, I shoot you, you shoot me, I win. Duh. So think about your ultimates less on a pedestal. And I hope people watch this whole video, not just, oh, I'm going to skip here and watch this part. I hope they watch all of it because I think all of it's pretty valuable information, and understanding other roles is really important. But we'll see. Maybe I'll add a notice to the start of the video and mention it to people and pray people watch it because I think it is pretty helpful for everything. Now, before I end the DPS category, some characters you could play are Punisher, specifically because he teaches you a lot about positioning because he's very easy to kill if you don't position well or set up your grapples in the right way. And he can do a ton of damage. He can solo an enemy team. Namor, because ton of damage, teaches you a decent amount about positioning, cooldown management, and he has infinite ammo, which means you can just literally never let go of left click and do a ton of damage. And he's like the best counter dive in the game. And then Moon Knight, because no aim, no brain, I'm a Moon Knight main. And he can chunk people. And his ultimate's really powerful for combos. You can climb pretty easily with him. Now, let's see, now I'd say this is close enough to the middle of the yap. By that, I mean it's probably the end of the yap. And if you guys are new here, this is the part where I talk to the audience. And if you guys want to skip, feel free. There's a timestamp. But I just want to make this one quick. Tell you guys I love you. I appreciate all you guys so much. Life's been rough lately, but I'm making it out, you know? It's going well, trying to figure it out. So I want to say thank you guys all so much for the support, the subscribers, everything. Speaking of that, if you didn't know, I got my first sponsorship not too long ago with Gamer Subs. So if you like energy drinks, or if you don't want caffeine, but you do want a nootropic formula with no sugar, no calories, no nothing, check out GamerSups, and if you use my code in the description, you'll get 21% off the whole site until the end of February, and after that, you'll get 10% off. Also, for all the people that do want to join my coaching from this video, or if you just think you're interested in it, it'll be in the description. It'll be on Metafy, and there are going to be sessions. You can go to the sessions and you can choose which one you'd like, 1 hour, 2 hour. And if you get bulk sessions, it's cheaper per hour for a call, and you can schedule them whenever you want. So let's say you buy 5 hours of calls and you don't want to play the game next month. You can schedule it 3 months from now. You can schedule it basically whenever, and you'll be able to do it. So if you do think this will be something you do often, I would check those out. Or if you don't want the coaching, I'll keep making great videos for you guys. Anyways, I love you guys. Let's get back to the video. Now, finally for Strategist. Strategist, I want to draw a diagram for this, but I'm not going to because this is a Yap session. You're supposed to be listening in the background. And I'll make a different video more specifically for Strategists about it. But in school, there was something called, I believe, the best fit line. And long story short, it was a whole bunch of dots on a graph. And it would be a line that best goes through the center of those dots. And that diagram I would draw for people because as a support player, you want to think about your teammate like that, or your teammates. You want to think, where can I position myself that I can see everyone the easiest? Because there's always going to be idiots that hide behind a wall. There's always going to be people that don't realize that you can't shoot through the cart. Always going to happen. So you want to position yourself far enough back that you can see everyone, but close enough that you're not a free pick to get dove on. And too many strategists I've seen, all of them either play way too close to their team, they start frontlining, or I'll be watching them in spectate mode for the match replay that we watch. And I'll turn the camera on, I'll show them, yo, do you not, hey, look behind you? You see this? You see how you let this person die? You know? And it happens a lot. And I understand you can't babysit everybody, but you want to make it easy. You want to make it easy for yourself and easy for them. Speaking of this, I probably should have added this in DPS and tank, but I did for tank kind of. But for DPS, please position yourself in front of the healers because most of the time they will not look up and heal you. They will not look down and heal you. They will look forward and heal whatever's in front of them. In higher ranks, they start looking up. Until, like, I would say, Celestial, I don't think people look up. It's crazy. And now, the more people play, the more the ranks shift. So eventually, that'll be eternity before people look up. So, I'm warning you. People do not look up in this game. And all the strategists out there, please look up. I can't tell you how many times. I was actually screen sharing the other day. I was playing, and I was trying to rank up. And someone asked me, you're hella, why aren't you playing on high ground? So then I proved a point. I got up on high ground. I played. I did a ton more damage from up there. But I was at 50 health for a solid minute, and no one looked at me. If I moved, I wouldn't be able to get the health pack because I'd get killed. And I just had to sit there and die, basically. And that's why I don't play high ground as much in lower ranks. Because people don't look up. I calmed, hey, up here, please, Luna Snow, please. And they're just, la-dee-da-dee-da. What's the song? I don't know if I get copyrighted. I'm not singing that. Never mind. But you know the Luna Snow meme song that you'll see on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and all that. That's what be playing in their heads. Not looking at me, not thinking about me, not nothing. So please try to find the best fit line for your positioning. You want to make it as easy as possible to deal with dumb teammates because they're going to be dumb. They're going to hide behind walls. They're going to walk through the payload. And you want to make it as easy as possible for you to do your job. Now, another big thing is cooldown usage. If you have a big burst of healing, let's say Luna Snow's clap ability, or Cloak and Dagger's bubble, or her wall, or I don't know what else, Adam Warlock's health link, all the really big abilities you have that are really important, stop using them off cooldown. I've seen too many times people will use an ability like that while 9 people are full health. Obviously, exaggeration. It can only be 6 on a team, but you get the idea. Everyone's full health. We're using our best ability for fun. Make sure you're saving it for when the team actually needs it. Now, I heard someone talk to me about it, and they were like, well, sometimes I'm predicting, which makes sense. I respect you got to predict sometimes when you think your team's going to start getting chunked. But I think you need a lot more game experience to start predicting. Because a lot of the times they would predict and it would just be nowhere near damage, right? So at least wait for them to start taking a little damage first. Not just, oh, they pushed in, I assume they're going to take a ton of damage. Let them take a little bit first. Then you use it as a prediction, right? Don't just pop it full health and pray. Speaking of cooldowns though, if an enemy healer ults, counter their ultimate. Sometimes you can wait a few seconds before you counter, until your team takes damage, because then you can beat their ultimate because yours will still be up and theirs will be gone. But in general, you hear a big ultimate, counter it with yours. And you want to be, a lot of strategist is racing the enemy team strategist ultimate. If you get outcycled for ult, it'll feel helpless because you'll never have yours up when they do, and you'll just lose. Now, sometimes you could do this, you could beat them by just saying, yo, tank, could you just sit there, take damage, and I'll keep heal farming you for a few seconds? I actually saw a clip on TikTok about, or not TikTok, YouTube Shorts. A Magneto went in, just stood there and took a ton of damage, only had their cloak and dagger heal them, and they had ultimate in the first like 30 seconds of the game. That is a strategy that will work. So if you found that you're cycled behind their strategist, do that. Tell your other healer, don't heal for a second, and have probably Magneto's best because he can just fully negate damage, but have them do that and then farm up ult so you can beat them, and to have them not do damage. Just have them sit there, maybe poke just a little bit so you don't farm the enemy's ult, and you guys just get instant ult charge and win. Because then it'll go from you being outcycled to you outcycling. Now, that takes a little team composition and all that, a little bit of brain power. Sometimes that doesn't happen solo queue, so I understand. But it is something to think about, and it will work very well. Now, I mentioned earlier about other characters not using their get out of jail free card. As, let's say, Luna Snow. I'm going to use Luna Snow as an example because I think she's a pretty good example. Let's say her snowball, or Mantis's sleep, or Rocket's dashes. Well, Rocket's dashes aren't the greatest example, but you get the idea. If you have an enemy team that's diving you, save the ability until they dive you and never use it outside of it, pretty much. Yes, there's a time to outside of it, but it's too niche for me to just generally recommend it. So you'll learn that niche time in the future from not using it. But for now, just start with, I'm not using it, forget that. And when they dive, you use it. And speaking of using it, stop using it. Let's say a Spider-Man swings in. Don't just use it while he's swinging. You're not going to hit him. And even if you do, why would you want to aim that hard? Wait for him to start his combo. Let's say, this is also ties into earlier, I said knowing characters. His combo is pull himself to you, uppercut, then look for a swing away, or do the down slam on your head. And if he has the Venom combo, he'll do that too. If you see him doing that, as soon as he does the pull, maybe do it. Or as soon as he does the uppercut, freeze him. Something like that. Don't just try to Kovacs him in the air. But if you don't have a threat like that, use it for someone who overextends. Let's say the tank pushes really far in, your Groot walls him off. Sleep him, freeze him, stun him, do something to him to guarantee that kill for your team. Because you want to make it as easy as possible. And if you have no fear of death from the enemy team diving you, use it. Guarantee your team a kill, or whatever, however you have to. Another thing, speaking of guaranteeing kills, if your team, obviously Mantis is different for, because Mantis needs to do damage for her abilities. If your team is pretty much full health, shoot people. If they're not full health, stop shooting people. Let's say you get dived by a BP, but your Namor's sitting right next to you getting dove with you, but he's trying to kill the BP. Stop shooting the BP and heal Namor, because he's more likely to kill him. And if you don't let him kill him, you're both going to die. So, you know, too many people do that, and it makes you just lose for free. Now, I understand, yes, you can do damage, and a lot of the time, especially with Mantis, you can just destroy people. But a lot of the skill ceiling with healers, or strategists, whatever, is knowing when to do damage, knowing when to heal, and balancing that well. So, to start, just don't balance it. Focus on only when everyone's full health you do damage, or close to full health you do damage, and focus on when they're low, or 90% of the time healing. And then, as you get more games in, as you get more time, and you learn, okay, I can shoot here, or I can shoot here, or whatever. Adam Warlock should be doing damage, because he's a cooldown character. He doesn't heal passively. Rocket Raccoon could be doing damage if someone dives him. That's the only time, because he does only good close range damage, because his damage fall off is high. Mantis should be doing damage constantly, literally never letting go of the shoot button, because her cooldowns are click on you one time, you're good. Basically, everyone else should be doing it damage only when their teammates are healed. Now, for characters to play as a strategist, I would say Luna Snow, Cloak and Dagger, and Rocket. Now, I would say Mantis if you have decent aim, but if you don't have decent aim, I would stick to Luna Snow, Cloak and Dagger, or Rocket. I think those are the best ones to get really good value out of easily. And Mantis, I think you could just solo carry a whole team on if you have good aim or good positioning. Anyways, if you guys want to check out my coaching, the link for it is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one right here. Have a good one, everyone. God bless you.